The massive assembly hall of the Galactic Defense Council buzzed with the chittering, growling, and synthesized voices of 1,000 different species. Representatives from across the known galaxy had gathered on Nexus Prime to witness humanity's formal admission into the Coalition forces. It should have been a moment of celebration for the newest members of galactic society. Instead, Lieutenant Sarah Chun stood at attention while alien officers examined her equipment with barely concealed amusement. Her rifle, a modified Barrett M82A1 that had served her well in the Martian conflicts, seemed primitive compared to the energy weapons and plasma cannon surrounding her. This is what the humans call a precision weapon. Commander Veltar, a towering Krillian with 4 arms and chitinous armor plating, picked up Sarah's rifle with 2 of his massive claws. The weapon looked like a toy in his grasp. It fires metal projectiles using chemical explosives? How quaint. A ripple of laughter echoed through the alien observers. Sarah kept her face neutral, though her jaw clenched slightly. Beside her, Captain Rodriguez maintained his military bearing despite the obvious mockery. The effective range is listed as 2 kilometers, continued another officer. This one a floating Zephyrian whose gas-filled body pulsed with bioluminescent patterns of derision. Our standard pulse rifles achieve pinpoint accuracy at 15 kilometers. Why would we need such limited weapons in our forces? General Thaxon, the Coalition's supreme military commander, rose from his position at the head of the assembly. The massive Draconian's scales shifted from deep purple to a dismissive gray as he addressed the human delegation. Humans of Earth. His voice resonated through translation devices, reaching every corner of the vast hall. Your species has shown remarkable determination in your recent conflicts. Your ground forces are adequate for planetary defense. However, your insistence on including these primitive marksmen in our elite units is puzzling. Sarah felt her heart sink. Months of preparation, years of training, and this was how humanity's finest snipers were being received. She thought of her fallen comrades on Europa, of the impossible shots that had turned the tide against the Centauri rebels. None of that seemed to matter here. Permission to speak, sir. Captain Rodriguez stepped forward, his voice carrying across the assembly. General Thaxon's massive head tilted, a gesture that might have been curiosity. Granted, our snipers have proven themselves in numerous conflicts. The human approach to long-range precision combat offers unique advantages that complement existing coalition forces. This prompted another wave of alien laughter. Commander Veltar set Sarah's rifle down with obvious disinterest. Captain, your snipers take minutes to line up a single shot. Our automated targeting systems can eliminate dozens of targets in that same time frame. What possible advantage could your methods offer? Before Rodriguez could answer, Admiral Kesth of the Void Hunters interjected. The Serpentine alien's multiple eyes focused on a human delegation with predatory interest. Perhaps we should demonstrate the inadequacy of human precision weapons. I propose a challenge. The assembly fell silent. Challenges within the coalition were serious affairs, often determining military doctrine and resource allocation for decades. Sarah felt the weight of every alien gaze upon her. What do you propose, Admiral? General Thaxon's voice carried a note of interest. A combat simulation. 5 of their best snipers against 5 of our elite marksmen. Various scenarios, multiple targets, realistic battlefield conditions. When the humans fail to meet our standards, we can assign them to appropriate support roles and move forward with proper military integration. Sarah's hands tightened into fists at her sides. Support roles. They were talking about relegating humanity's finest shooters to ammunition carriers and equipment maintenance. The terms, Captain Rodriguez asked, though his voice betrayed nothing of what Sarah knew he must be feeling. Admiral Kesth's laugh was a sound like grinding metal. Simple. If your snipers can match our performance in 3 out of 5 scenarios, humanity retains its current military integration status. If they fail, he paused, letting the implications hang in the air. Your species will be reassigned to roles more suited to your primitive capabilities. The hall erupted in excited chittering and electronic pulses as aliens discussed the proposed challenge. Sarah realized that this wasn't just about sniper tactics anymore. This was about humanity's place in the galactic community. One wrong move, one missed shot, and Earth's military would be relegated to second-class status for generations. General Thaxton raised a massive claw for silence. The challenge is accepted. 1 week from today, we will witness this demonstration. Dismissed. As the assembly dispersed, Sarah caught glimpses of alien faces filled with anticipation and amusement. They were expecting a show, all right. They were expecting to watch humanity fail spectacularly. She picked up her rifle, feeling its familiar weight in her hands. In 7 days, everything would change. The only question was whether it would change for better or worse. The human quarters on Nexus Prime were cramped and utilitarian, designed for species much different from Earth's inhabitants. Sarah Chun sat cross-legged on the floor, methodically cleaning her rifle while her 4 teammates prepared their own equipment. The air recycler hummed overhead, struggling to process the unfamiliar atmosphere mixture that sustained human life. "So, no pressure," muttered Sergeant Jake Morrison, examining his scope calibrations for the 100th time. The former Marine had earned his reputation in the Outer Colony Wars, where a single missed shot often meant the difference between victory and massacre. Just the entire future of human military service riding on our shoulders. Corporal Lisa Park, the youngest of their group, looked up from her ammunition count. "I've been analyzing the alien sniping techniques from their training videos. They rely heavily on automated assistance and energy weapons that don't account for environmental factors the way our ballistic rounds do." "That might work for us," said Staff Sergeant Marcus Webb, their team leader. The grizzled veteran had served in more conflicts than the rest of them combined. "But we can't underestimate them. These aren't weekend warriors we're facing." The 5th member of their team, Sergeant First Class Elena Vasquez, spoke without looking up from her equipment checks. "I intercepted some communications between the alien teams. They're treating this like a formality. Expected outcome, they called it." Sarah finally looked up from her rifle. "Good. Overconfidence has ended more military careers than enemy fire." A soft chime indicated someone at their door. Captain Rodriguez entered, followed by Dr. Amanda Foster, their xenobiologist specialist. The captain's expression was grim. "I've got the challenge details," Rodriguez announced, setting down a holographic projector. 5 scenarios as promised. "But they've stacked the deck against us." The hologram activated, showing a series of combat environments. The first scenario depicted an urban warfare setting with multiple levels and complex sightlines. The second showed a zero-gravity asteroid field. The third was a jungle environment with limited visibility. The fourth presented a desert landscape with extreme weather conditions. The final scenario appeared to be some kind of orbital platform with artificial gravity fluctuations. "Each scenario has different objectives," Dr. Foster explained, her voice clinical. "Some focus on elimination of high-value targets. Others test precision under time pressure. The alien teams will be using their standard equipment and tactics." Webb studied the projections carefully. "What about environmental factors? Gravity variations, atmospheric differences?" "That's where it gets interesting," Rodriguez replied. "Each environment matches conditions found on actual coalition worlds. The aliens are familiar with these settings. We're not." Sarah stood, slinging her rifle across her shoulder. "What about reconnaissance? Can we observe their training sessions?" "Negative. Both sides are restricted to sealed training areas. We go in blind." Morrison laughed, though there was no humor in it. "So we're expected to match the performance of aliens who've been fighting in these conditions for decades, using equipment designed for these environments, while we're stuck with ballistic weapons that might not even function properly in some of these scenarios. The zero-gravity environment particularly concerns me," Dr. Foster added. "Newton's laws still apply. Every shot will create an equal and opposite reaction. The aliens' energy weapons don't have that limitation." Park raised her hand tentatively. "What about our ammunition? Are we limited to standard loads?" Rodriguez smiled for the first time since entering. "That's one advantage we managed to negotiate. Full access to our specialized ammunition types. Armor-piercing, explosive tips, subsonic rounds, whatever you need." Vasquez looked up from her equipment. "Time limits. Each scenario has different parameters. Some are about speed, others about accuracy under sustained fire. The scoring system weights different factors for each environment." Sarah walked to the small viewport that looked out over the massive coalition base. Ships from dozens of species came and went, each representing civilizations that had mastered interstellar travel while humanity was still learning to farm. The scale of what they were up against was overwhelming. There's something else, Rodriguez continued. Intel suggests the alien teams include some of their absolute best. Commander Veltar himself will be participating, along with Admiral Kestiach's personal guard. They're not taking any chances. Webb nodded grimly. They want to make sure we fail spectacularly. Maximum humiliation. Then, we'll have to make sure we don't, Sarah said quietly, still gazing out the viewport. What's the timeline for preparation? 6 days of training access to similar environments. The challenge is public, broadcast across coalition space. Estimated viewership in the trillions. The weight of that number settled over the room like a blanket. Trillions of alien beings would be watching humanity's military capabilities judged. The implications extended far beyond their own careers or even military service. This would shape how every species in the galaxy viewed human potential. Morrison broke the silence. Anyone else notice they keep calling our weapons primitive? Every chance they get, Park replied. Maybe we should remind them that sometimes primitive is exactly what you need. Morrison's grin was predatory. My grandfather used to tell stories about the Pacific War. American forces with bolt-action rifles facing Japanese soldiers with automatic weapons. Know how that turned out? Vasquez snorted. That's not exactly the same situation, Jake. Isn't it? Superior technology, better equipment, home field advantage. But they forgot one thing. What's that? Sarah asked. They forgot that the weapon doesn't make the warrior. The warrior makes the weapon. The massive amphitheater of Nexus Prime had been converted into a viewing arena for the challenge. Holographic displays surrounded the central stage, showing live feeds from the 5 different simulation environments. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the tiered seating, their excited chatter creating a cacophony of alien voices that translation devices struggled to process. Sarah Chin stood with her team in the staging area, watching the first alien team enter the urban warfare simulation. Through the transparent barriers, she could see Commander Veltar's four-armed form moving with fluid precision through the holographic cityscape, his plasma rifle eliminating targets with mechanical efficiency. Look at that reaction time, Morrison whispered, his voice tight with concern. 0.3 of a second from target identification to elimination. On the displays above, the Krillian commander moved through the simulation like a force of nature. His weapon never seemed to miss, and his multiple limbs allowed him to engage targets in directions that would be impossible for a human. The crowd's appreciation was audible even through the barrier. 15 targets eliminated in 4 minutes, 23 seconds, announced the simulation controller, a floating geometric construct that served as the challenge's neutral arbiter. Accuracy rating, 97%. Environmental adaptation rating, 94%. The alien spectators erupted in approval. Sarah caught glimpses of betting displays showing overwhelming odds against the human team. Some species were giving them worse than 1,000-to-1 chances. The second alien marksman, one of Admiral Kestiach's Void Hunters, entered the zero-gravity asteroid simulation. The serpentine creature's multiple eyes tracked targets independently while its weapon charged and fired in rapid succession. Its natural ability to orient itself in 3-dimensional space gave it an enormous advantage in the weightless environment. 14 targets eliminated in 3 minutes, 51 seconds. Accuracy rating, 95%. Dr. Foster approached their group, tablet in hand. I've been analyzing their techniques. They're incredibly efficient, but they're following standard tactical algorithms. No improvisation, no adaptation beyond their programmed responses. Webb nodded thoughtfully. That might be their weakness. Military doctrine without individual creativity. The third alien competitor, a crystalline being whose body actually interfaced directly with its energy weapon, completed the jungle scenario in record time. The creature's natural ability to process electromagnetic spectrum data, invisible to most species, allowed it to track targets through dense foliage effortlessly. This isn't looking good, Park muttered, checking her equipment one final time. Stay focused, Sarah replied firmly. We knew they'd be impressive. That's not why we're here. The fourth alien marksman, a creature that seemed to be made of living metal, dominated the desert scenario. Its sensors automatically compensated for wind, temperature, and atmospheric disturbances that would challenge any organic sniper. The precision was inhuman because it literally was inhuman. The final alien competitor was perhaps the most intimidating yet. A member of the Eternal Guard, enhanced beings whose lifespans were measured in millennia and whose experience encompassed countless conflicts. Its performance in the orbital platform scenario was flawless, each shot calculated with mathematical precision. Average time across all scenarios, 4 minutes, 12 seconds, the controller announced. Average accuracy, 96.2%. Coalition standard exceeded in all categories. The alien audience's approval shook the amphitheater. Sarah looked up at the displays, showing reaction shots from across Coalition space. Billions of beings were watching, and their expressions ranged from smug satisfaction to outright dismissal of human capabilities. Human team, please report to Staging Area 1 for scenario initiation. This was it. Sarah led her team toward the urban warfare simulation, feeling the weight of every alien gaze upon them. The holographic city materialized around them, complete with realistic sound effects and environmental hazards. Remember, Webb's voice came through their comm system. We're not trying to beat their times. We're trying to win this challenge. Different objectives required different approaches. Sarah found her assigned position on a building rooftop, her rifle already adapting to the simulated environment. Through her scope, she could see the target markers beginning to appear throughout the cityscape. But instead of immediately engaging, she spent precious seconds analyzing the scenario. Contact Building 7, third floor window, Morrison's voice reported. I see him, Sarah replied, but she didn't fire immediately. Wait, Park, what's your angle on Building 12? I've got eyes on the roof access, but no target yet. Sarah continued her analysis, mapping the entire engagement area while her teammates provided overwatch. To the observers, it must have looked like hesitation or incompetence. The time clock was ticking, and she hadn't fired a single shot. Sarah, Webb's voice carried a note of urgency. We need to start engaging. Negative. Something's wrong with this scenario. Through her scope, Sarah noticed something the aliens had missed. The target placement wasn't random. There was a pattern, a tactical logic that suggested the targets weren't independent threats, but part of a coordinated response. Eliminating them in the wrong order would trigger secondary events. I count 19 visible targets, she reported. But the scenario parameters called for 15. Confirmed, Vasquez replied from her position. I'm seeing additional movement signatures. Sarah smiled grimly. The aliens had treated this as a shooting gallery, engaging targets as they appeared. But this wasn't just about marksmanship. It was about tactical thinking. Priority target is Building 12, roof access. He's directing the others. Webb, can you confirm? Confirmed. He's got communication equipment. Take him first. Morrison, Building 7 is your secondary priority, but wait for my signal. Park, you got overwatch on the north approach. Vasquez, cover R6. What followed was a carefully orchestrated engagement that bore no resemblance to the aliens' rapid-fire approach. Each shot was calculated not just for accuracy, but for tactical impact. When Sarah finally fired her first round, it triggered a cascade of perfectly timed engagements that neutralized the entire threat in a way the simulation's designers hadn't anticipated. 15 primary targets eliminated in 6 minutes, 47 seconds. The controller announced, its tone neutral but somehow surprised. Accuracy rating, 100%. Tactical efficiency rating, exceptional. Note, simulation parameters exceeded. All secondary and tertiary threats neutralized without scenario progression to hostile phase. The alien audience fell silent. On the displays above, xenobiologists and military analysts were frantically reviewing the footage, trying to understand what had just happened. Sarah ejected her spent magazine and began walking toward the exit. One down, she said quietly into her comm, 4 to go. Behind her, the holographic city dissolved, leaving only the memory of perfect shots and tactical thinking that had turned a simple marksmanship test into something resembling actual warfare. The aliens were about to learn that there was more to being a sniper than just pulling a trigger. Dr. Foster consulted her tablet. I've been studying coalition military doctrine. They favor overwhelming firepower and technological superiority. Individual skill development is secondary to equipment capabilities. That could work for us, Webb mused, if they're not used to adapting their tactics on the fly. Rodriguez moved toward the door. You have 6 days to prepare. Use them wisely. Remember, this isn't just about winning or losing. This is about proving that humanity belongs among the stars as equals, not as junior partners. After he left, the 5 snipers sat in contemplative silence. Outside their viewport, the Coalition fleet continued its endless dance of arrivals and departures. Soon, those same ships will be broadcasting humanity's moment of truth across the galaxy. Sarah began reassembling her rifle, the familiar motions calming her mind. 6 days to prepare for the most important shots of their lives. 6 days to prove that sometimes the old ways were still the best ways. The zero-gravity asteroid field simulation materialized around Morrison like a three-dimensional maze of floating rocks and debris. Unlike the previous urban scenario, this environment was purely about precision shooting in conditions that challenged every aspect of traditional marksmanship. Newton's laws ruled here with unforgiving mathematics. Morrison activated his magnetic boots against the entry platform, feeling the artificial atmosphere thin around him. Through his scope, he could see targets positioned throughout the asteroid field, some stationary, others following complex orbital patterns around the larger rocks. The alien sniper had eliminated 14 targets in under 4 minutes. Morrison needed to match or exceed that performance. But first, he did something the alien hadn't. He studied the physics. Morrison, what's your status? Webb's voice came through the comm from his position outside the simulation. Analyzing the environment. These targets aren't random. Morrison tracked a moving target through his scope, noting its trajectory and speed. They're following realistic orbital mechanics. If I can map the gravitational influences. You don't have time for a physics lesson, Park urged. Just shoot them. Morrison smiled grimly. That's exactly what the Void Hunter did. And that's why he left 4 targets unengaged. Through the observation displays, Morrison could see the confusion among the alien spectators. Military analysts were frantically reviewing the Void Hunter's performance, realizing that their champion had indeed failed to engage 4 targets that had been obscured by asteroid shadows during his run. Morrison's first shot was deliberately calculated. Instead of aiming for the nearest target, he selected one whose elimination would send its platform spinning into the path of another target. The ballistic round struck true, and the resulting collision eliminated 2 threats simultaneously. His second shot used the asteroid field itself as a weapon. By targeting a specific point on a rotating asteroid, Morrison sent debris spinning toward a cluster of distant targets, using the zero-gravity environment to turn his ammunition into improvised shrapnel. Unconventional tactics detected, the simulation controller announced, its tone registering what might have been surprise. Candidate is utilizing environmental physics beyond standard parameters. The alien audience stirred uneasily. This wasn't how precision shooting was supposed to work. Energy weapons didn't ricochet. Plasma bolts didn't use gravitational assists. The human was treating the entire asteroid field as a weapon system. Morrison's third shot was the most audacious yet. He deliberately missed his target, sending his round on a complex trajectory that used 3 different asteroids' gravitational fields to curve the projectile's path. The bullet emerged from behind a massive rock to strike a target that had been completely invisible from Morrison's position. Impossible, Commander Veltar chittered from his observation platform. Projectile weapons cannot achieve curved flight paths through gravitational manipulation. The calculations alone would require a human brain, Dr. Foster interjected quietly, speaking to Captain Rodriguez. Their weapons specialists train for this. Ballistic calculation isn't just about mathematics for them. It's intuitive. Morrison continued his methodical engagement, each shot demonstrating a different aspect of three-dimensional ballistic science. He used asteroid rotation to provide moving cover, employed conservation of momentum to redirect his own position between shots, and turned the simulation's realistic physics into tactical advantages that energy weapons simply couldn't replicate. His final shot was pure artistry. Morrison calculated a trajectory that sent his bullet on a tour of the asteroid field, using gravitational slingshot effects to build velocity before striking the last target with enough force to send it careening into 3 additional hidden targets that the simulation's designers had assumed would remain undetectable. 19 targets eliminated in 7 minutes, 15 seconds, the controller announced. Accuracy rating, 100%. Environmental adaptation rating, exceptional. Note, all targets eliminated including 4 previously undetected threats. Tactical innovation rating, unprecedented. The silence from the alien observers was deafening. Morrison activated his jets and floated toward the exit platform, ejecting his spent magazine as he moved. 2 down, he reported to his team. The jungle simulation presented Park with an entirely different challenge. Dense foliage, limited sight lines, and environmental hazards that would challenge any marksman. The crystalline alien had dominated this scenario through electromagnetic spectrum analysis, seeing targets that were invisible to conventional optics. But Park had trained in the Amazon basin during the South American conflicts. She understood jungle warfare in ways that no crystal-based life form could comprehend. Instead of searching for targets through her scope, Park listened. The simulation was realistic enough to include audio cues, and she had learned to hunt by sound as much as sight. Her first target wasn't located through visual identification, but through the subtle displacement of air that indicated movement behind thick foliage. Her shot penetrated 3 layers of vegetation before finding its mark, using a specialized armor-piercing round that maintained its trajectory despite multiple impacts. The alien spectators muttered in confusion as their instruments showed a target eliminated with no apparent line of sight. Park's second innovation was even more dramatic. Instead of fighting the environment, she used it. Her incendiary rounds ignited carefully selected portions of the artificial jungle, creating sightlines where none had existed before. The resulting fires revealed targets that had been completely hidden, allowing her to engage multiple threats that the crystalline sniper had missed entirely. Candidate is altering the simulation environment. The controller reported, its tone uncertain. Is that against the rules? General Thaxon rumbled from his observation position. A pause. No specific prohibition exists in the challenge parameters. Park's systematic destruction and reconstruction of the jungle environment revealed 17 targets, 3 more than the crystalline alien had detected. Her final score exceeded the coalition champion in every category except speed, and even that difference was marginal. The desert simulation challenged Vasquez with extreme weather conditions, shifting sands, and atmospheric distortions that played havoc with targeting systems. The metallic alien had used advanced sensors to compensate for environmental factors automatically. Vasquez took a different approach. She read the environment like text. Wind patterns, sand movement, temperature variations. These weren't obstacles to overcome, but information to exploit. Her first shot deliberately missed its target, allowing her to measure atmospheric conditions with her tracer round. Her second shot compensated perfectly for every environmental factor, striking dead center. But Vasquez's true innovation was understanding that the desert simulation wasn't static. Weather patterns changed throughout the scenario, creating windows of opportunity that only opened at specific times. By timing her shots to coincide with optimal atmospheric conditions, she achieved accuracy levels that the simulation's designers had assumed were impossible. Her final shot took place during a simulated sandstorm, when visibility was nearly zero and atmospheric disturbance should have made precision impossible. Vasquez waited for a 3-second lull in the wind pattern, adjusted for the storm's electromagnetic interference, and put her bullet through a target that even the metallic alien's advanced sensors had been unable to engage during similar conditions. 16 targets eliminated in optimal conditions, the controller announced. Weather adaptation rating, superior to specifications. Note, 1 target engaged during Category 5 atmospheric disturbance previously deemed impossible for organic marksmen. Webb approached the final simulation, the orbital platform with artificial gravity fluctuations, knowing that this was where the human team would either prove themselves definitively or face humiliating defeat. The Eternal Guard member had achieved perfect scores across all categories, demonstrating the accumulated expertise of millennia. Webb had 43 years of human military experience. It would have to be enough. The orbital platform materialized around him, a complex structure of catwalks, chambers, and zero-gravity zones where artificial gravity fields created unpredictable tactical conditions. Targets appeared throughout the structure, some in normal gravity, others floating free, still others subject to gravitational fields that pulled in unexpected directions. Webb began his engagement with patience that bordered on the glacial. Each shot was preceded by careful observation of local gravitational effects, atmospheric variations, and structural dynamics. To the alien observers, his methodical approach seemed almost comically slow compared to the Eternal Guard's machine-like precision. But Webb was building something the Eternal Guard hadn't bothered with, a complete understanding of the battlefield environment. His breakthrough came when he realized that the platform's artificial gravity generators created predictable interference patterns. By timing his shots to coincide with gravitational fluctuations, Webb could make bullets curve in flight, achieve greater velocity through gravitational acceleration, and even cause rounds to hover momentarily in zero-gravity zones before continuing to their targets. His final shot was a masterpiece of applied physics and tactical thinking. Webb fired a bullet into a zero-gravity zone, where it hung motionless for nearly 10 seconds while gravitational fields fluctuated around it. When the fields aligned properly, the bullet accelerated through 3 different gravitational zones, building enough velocity to penetrate a heavily armored target that the Eternal Guard had been forced to engage with multiple shots. 17 targets eliminated in 9 minutes, 12 seconds, the controller announced. Innovation rating, revolutionary. Note, tactical applications discovered exceed original simulation parameters. Webb made his way to the exit, knowing that the human team had just accomplished something unprecedented. They hadn't just matched the coalition champions. They had redefined what precision marksmanship could achieve. The silence from the alien observers was now complete. In the viewing galleries across coalition space, billions of beings were witnessing a fundamental shift in their understanding of human capabilities. The primitive weapons had found their mark. Now came the reckoning. The amphitheater fell into absolute silence as the simulation controller processed the final results. Holographic displays throughout the arena showed detailed breakdowns of both teams' performances, but the numbers told a story that no one in the coalition had expected to see. Sarah Chun stood with her teammates in the center of the arena, their primitive ballistic weapons slung across their shoulders, facing an audience of beings who had spent the last week dismissing human capabilities. The betting displays that had shown 1,000-to-1 odds against them now flickered uncertainly, their algorithms struggling to process what had just occurred. Competition analysis complete, the simulation controller announced, its synthesized voice carrying across the vast amphitheater. Results as follows. Urban warfare scenario. Human team. 17 targets eliminated, 100% accuracy. Tactical innovation rating exceptional. Coalition team. 15 targets eliminated, 97% accuracy. Standard tactical rating. A ripple of disbelief moved through the alien spectators. Commander Veltar's forearms flexed nervously as he processed the implications. Zero-gravity asteroid field scenario. Human team. 19 targets eliminated, 100% accuracy. Environmental adaptation exceptional. Coalition team. 14 targets eliminated, 95% accuracy. Standard adaptation rating. Admiral Kestich's serpentine form coiled tighter around his observation perch, his multiple eyes narrowing as the reality of the situation became clear. Jungle warfare scenario. Human team. 17 targets eliminated, 100% accuracy. Environmental modification rating revolutionary. Coalition team. 14 targets eliminated, 96% accuracy. Standard engagement rating. The crystalline being's harmonic resonance shifted to a frequency that indicated deep concern. Its electromagnetic spectrum analysis had been completely outmatched by human intuition and adaptability. Desert warfare scenario. Human team. 16 targets eliminated, 100% accuracy. Weather adaptation superior to specifications. Coalition team. 14 targets eliminated, 94% accuracy. Standard environmental rating. The metallic alien's form seemed to dull as its advanced sensors were compared unfavorably to human environmental awareness. Orbital platform scenario. Human team. 17 targets eliminated, innovation rating revolutionary. Tactical applications exceeding simulation parameters. Coalition team. 15 targets eliminated, 98% accuracy. Standard tactical rating. Even the Eternal Guard representative showed signs of disturbance. Its millennia of experience suddenly, seeming inadequate compared to human creativity. Final assessment. The controller continued, its voice somehow conveying surprise despite its artificial nature. Human team achieves victory in all 5 scenarios. Overall performance rating, exceptional. Tactical innovation rating, unprecedented. Environmental adaptation, superior to all coalition standards. The silence that followed was broken by a sound that no alien in the amphitheater had expected to hear. Human laughter. Morrison was chuckling quietly, shaking his head as he looked up at the displays showing their impossible victory. Something amusing, Sergeant? General Thaxton's massive voice rumbled across the arena, his scales shifting to a dangerous crimson. Morrison straightened to attention, but didn't lose his smile. Just thinking about something my grandfather used to say, sir. It's not the size of the gun that matters. It's the size of the brain behind it. Webb stepped forward, his grizzled face showing none of Morrison's humor. General, with respect, your coalition champions are excellent warriors. Their equipment is superior to ours in every measurable way. Their reaction times are faster, their weapons more powerful, their sensors more advanced. Then explain these results. Admiral Kestage hissed, his form writhing with agitation. They think like machines, Sarah interjected, her voice carrying across the amphitheater. Perfect, efficient, predictable. They follow tactical algorithms and standard operating procedures. But warfare isn't an algorithm. Park nodded, her young voice steady despite the magnitude of the moment. Your champions saw targets to eliminate. We saw problems to solve. Vasquez gestured toward the displays, still showing their performance data. Every environment you chose was designed to challenge conventional sniping techniques. So we didn't use conventional techniques. Impossible, Commander Veltar chittered, his translation device struggling with his agitation. Ballistic weapons cannot achieve the precision demonstrated. The physics worked exactly as expected, Webb interrupted. We just used physics that your energy weapons can't exploit. Gravitational effects, atmospheric manipulation, environmental modification. Your weapons fire straight lines of energy. Our weapons fire projectiles that obey the laws of physics in ways you've forgotten how to use. Dr. Foster approached from the observation area, her tablet displaying analysis data. General, if I may, the human performance demonstrates something we overlooked in our integration planning. Their weapons aren't primitive. They're specialized tools for tactical thinking that our advanced weapons have actually discouraged. Explain, General Thaxton commanded, though his scales had shifted from angry crimson to thoughtful purple. Energy weapons are point-and-shoot devices. Advanced sensors do the thinking for the shooter. Automated targeting systems eliminate variables. The warrior becomes an extension of the weapon system. Sarah stepped forward. But ballistic weapons require the shooter to understand physics, psychology, environmental factors, and tactical implications of every shot. We don't just aim at targets. We solve three-dimensional problems in real time. The urban scenario, Morrison added, warming to the subject. Your champion saw 15 targets and eliminated 15 targets. We saw a tactical situation where the targets were coordinated, identified the command structure, and eliminated the threat at its source. The asteroid field, Parr continued. Your Void Hunter used superior maneuverability to engage targets sequentially. We used gravitational physics to turn the entire environment into a weapon system. The jungle simulation, Vasquez noted. Your crystalline warrior used electromagnetic spectrum analysis to see through foliage. We changed the environment to create the sight lines we needed. The desert scenario, Webb concluded. Your metallic champion used advanced sensors to compensate for environmental factors. We read the environment itself and used it to enhance our accuracy. General Thaxton rose from his command platform, his massive form casting shadows across the arena floor. The alien spectators watched in tense silence as the Supreme Military Commander processed what he had witnessed. These results will require significant revision of coalition military doctrine, he announced finally. Human marksmen will be integrated into elite units immediately. Their tactical approaches will be studied and adapted where possible. Sarah felt a surge of relief, but the general wasn't finished. However, Thaxon continued, his voice carrying a note of respect that hadn't been present before. I suspect that these methods cannot simply be taught to other species. They require a particular type of thinking that appears to be uniquely human. Admiral Kestiach uncoiled from his perch, his serpentine form showing signs of what might have been admiration. The implications extend beyond military applications. If humans can achieve this level of innovation with primitive technology, perhaps, Commander Veltar added quietly, primitive is not the appropriate term. The betting displays throughout the amphitheater had gone dark, their operators unwilling to calculate new odds on human capabilities. Across coalition space, military academies would be revising their curricula. Defense contractors would be reconsidering their weapon development programs. Entire species would be questioning their assumptions about technological superiority. Sarah looked up at the holographic displays, still showing their performance data. In a few hours, these recordings would be analyzed by every military organization in the galaxy. The implications would ripple through coalition society for generations. One question remains, General Thaxon announced. These 5 individuals have demonstrated exceptional capability. But can this performance be replicated across human military units? Captain Rodriguez stepped forward, his chest swelling with pride. General, these 5 represent the best of human snipers, but they're not unique. Earth's military academies are producing marksmen with similar capabilities every year. We've just been waiting for an opportunity to prove it. The general's massive head tilted in what might have been approval. Then, perhaps it is time for the coalition to learn new ways of thinking about warfare. As the amphitheater began to empty, alien military officers approached the human delegation with requests for training programs, tactical consultations, and technology exchanges. The mockery that had begun the week was replaced by respect, curiosity, and perhaps a touch of fear. Sarah secured her rifle and prepared to leave the arena, knowing that she and her teammates had just changed humanity's relationship with the galaxy forever. The Crosshairs had found their mark, and the target had been nothing less than the future itself. In the weeks that followed, human sniper instructors would be assigned to coalition forces throughout known space. The phrase human innovation would become synonymous with tactical creativity. And somewhere in the vast database of military history, the Battle of Nexus Prime would be remembered not for ships or armies, but for 5 humans who proved that sometimes the most primitive approach is the most sophisticated of all. The galaxy had mocked human snipers. Now it would learn from them.